last year was a very disappointing loss. We lost one here one year on a dang field goal, which was a very disappointing loss. We won one year, didn't get to go to a bowl game because we had a fight, which was really disappointing because that's just not the way you do things. And it's about these players really have a lot of respect for each other. They're competitors, and they're going to line up and they're going to compete with everything they got. And when the game's over, they're going to shake each other's hand, and that's the way you got to do things. Things spill over outside of the stadium, but the players, I think truly have a genuine respect for one another, and it was always that way when I was playing and coaching in Alabama. It was always that way because everybody understands the magnitude of the game and how important it is. And you want to play well.
They've got kind of a strange deal in which they've got a lot of sacks on defense, yet their pass defense is giving up a lot of yards. I mean, anything that you notice in watching the film?
Well, I just think that some of that goes to the fact they're really, really good against the run. A lot of that, so teams I think have had to throw a little bit more, and they've given up a few big plays along the way, but they're number one I think in the SEC against the rush, and I think one of the top in the country against the rush, maybe fifth or something like seventh, and third in the nation in sacks. So we just played the number one team in the nation in sacks, and we got a run of some good defenses we've been playing against, and this is definitely one of them. But all that stuff, what's their score in defense? They're pretty good. I think they're top 35 or something in the country, maybe fifth. They're not giving up a ton of points, but they're scoring 33.
What was your advice, or what will it be to Billy regarding the Kerman job?
Well, right now the advice is nothing, because we're not even talking about that. We'll sit down and talk on Sunday. He's not going. That's just. I mean, it's an honor when you get a call from an AD about one of your coaches, especially when they're considering to be a head coach. But that's a different career path. There'll be a lot of things we'll sit down and talk about, things he'll have to discuss. But I don't think it'll be something that'll be drug out or anything like that. Probably a pretty quick decision one way or another. But Billy's a very good football coach. That's his alma mater, and not surprised at all that they would want to have him on their list of people they want to talk to. Well, that's for other people to decide. Coach Ford wasn't too young to be the head coach here. There's probably a lot of people that thought he was, especially when he was 5-5, 6-5, or whatever. That's right and wrong doesn't know youth. I mean, that to me. I mean, you either can do the job or you can't. I don't have any doubts. If that's something Billy chose to do, he would be very successful. I don't have any doubts about it.
Coach Spurrier had some nice things to say about you after last year's game. Have you gotten to know him a little bit more because you guys are in similar situations across the state?
Well, yeah, I have gotten to know him better. I've known him for a long time. We've crossed paths a ton since 1988, and it's with him being a coach, and then me playing and then coaching against him in a bunch of championship games, and we won a couple and lost a few, lost some heartbreakers. I'll never forget 1996. We lost. It was 94. We lost by 1 point. We were 12-1. Lost by 1 point to them in the championship game. Then we lost again, 10-3 in '96, and lost to them in the championship game. But in '99, we actually beat them twice. We beat them down at the Swamp, and then beat them pretty good in the championship game. So that's a good memory, because I've always had a lot of respect for him as a coach. I mean, this guy's won a bunch of games. I mean, he's won a ton of games, and I always liked their style of play. And obviously done a lot of recruiting against him when I was at Alabama, and same thing, recruited a lot of the same players. But I got a lot of respect for Coach Spurrier. He's been good to me. He's been we've spent more time together. He's much more serious golfer than me, I can tell you that. But he's been good. He's called me a couple times this year. In fact, I was heading to my radio show one night, and Coach Spurrier called up. We were talking a little bit. We've spent some time doing a couple charity things together, and and I congratulated him when they won the division. I got a lot of respect for Coach Spurrier and a bunch of those coaches he's got on his staff. Well, I can't tell you that.
The offense he's running now is much different from the ones you faced when you were at Alabama. What are your thoughts about how he's adapted sort of as an offensive mind?
Well, they're doing a lot of the same things. I mean, it's amazing to me when you watch the film and you see screens, draws, curl flat, cross route with the tight end. He's been doing that since 1988, and they run the zone. I would say the biggest thing right now is he's just running the ball more. Is the biggest thing, But when you got one like he's got, and he's had a couple of those when he was at Florida too. Had a couple of those guys, a couple of those type of years. I remember Eric Rhett when he had him there. Jiminy crickets, he was a load to deal with. We played them in the first SEC championship game my senior year, and they were very balanced then too. And that's to me when I think he has had his best offenses. He's got when he's got some explosiveness around him, and the quarterback is playing efficient. He's not making a bunch of mistakes. Early in the year, he kind of had some shaky moments, but he's playing very well for him, very well. But they run, used to never run the quarterback. Now they run the quarterback. So that's some of the things where he's changed over the years. But I'd say they got a lot of the similar things that he's kind of hung his hat on for years.
You view him just as a strategist.
Well,
a lot of coaches talk about his kind of offensive mind and day-of-game stuff, kind of that he'll pull out on the run.
Well, I just think he's more about matchups. He to me keeps it simple. I think that's probably one of his biggest strengths is he keeps it pretty simple, and he finds the matchups. He understands coverages, and he does what he does over and over and over and over and over again. But again, it's all about recruiting. It's all about recruiting. I know we were a lot better coaches last year with a few little pieces, and we'll be better in the future with some of these guys that'll be coming in here. And it's the same thing for Coach Spurrier. That's where they've done a good job. They've been able to recruit a few guys down there in the last couple of years that are really making an impact for them. It's all about recruiting.
Dabo, you've talked a couple times about the impact Marcus Lattimore's had. What is it about him that makes such a difference?
Well, he's a good kid, first of all, and football's important to him. He works hard at it. Got to know him in the recruiting process, and enjoyed getting to know him and his family. But he's a winner. He's a winner. He comes from a winning program. But football-wise, it's his vision. He's got excellent vision. They pretty much run the zone. That's what you break them down when it all comes down to it. They're going to run the zone every which way but loose. They will run the zone because that's what that kid knows, and he is outstanding at being able to jump cut a whole hole. I mean, just bam, he'll cut back on you, two gaps, and if you get out of your gap, you're in trouble with him. If you're a linebacker and you try to play over the top, he sees it. He's just got great vision and good toughness. I mean, he's made some really tough runs this year where he's broken tackles, and he's done a good job taking care of the ball. He's a good player.
In his rookie season, because for those of us that covered him in high school, I think he's even surpassed what we thought.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's number one back in the country to us, and not surprised at all that he's had the kind of year he's had. They're doing a good job up front. You got to give them guys some credit. I mean, he's a good player, but that offensive line is playing well for him. And then he's got a couple of pieces on the outside that take a lot of pressure off of it. So you just load up to stop the run. Well, you expose yourself in other places and you know, those guys can make plays. You know, that's really the cat and mouse game. You know, so but he is a good one, and 10's a good back. You know, but 21 he's special. He's special. He's got a little bit of James Davis in him when I see him, as far as how he James had great vision. Marcus might be a little faster, but James had that great vision, had that great ability to set blocks up, cut back, a slasher kind of a runner, and I see the similar things in Marcus. And he's also a very good receiver, and that's where I'd say he's similar to CJ in that regard. They do a good job of involving him in the passing game. He's a definite guy. You better know where he is, because they'll screen to him. They'll run him out, throw an angle route to him. They'll get you isolated on the Mike backer, run everybody off, get you isolated on the Mike backer. He's a real factor.
Factors, you mentioned their offensive weapons. Do you think that's aided Garcia in seeing a better runner? Does it look like they maybe pulled some of the hands off of him and let him make some decisions along that?
Yeah. You know, I just think that you know, all those things have made him a better player, as they would any quarterback. But he's making good decisions, and I think the balance has really helped from that regard. I mean, you know, they're running, I don't know, about 36 times a game, throwing it about 28 times a game, and 50+% on third down. That's pretty strong. So they've been able to stay ahead of the chains in just about every ball game that they've been in.
Devin, how important has it been to have a guy like Jamie ready to step in when obviously something happened to Andre, and you know, he's just kind of kept himself ready and been able to kind of take advantage of it?
Well, it's good to have some depth. You know, different kind of player, but I mean, you know, what can you say about Jamie Harper? I mean, this guy you couldn't ask anything else from this guy. Last 3 weeks since he's had to step in for Andre. I mean, he played a heck of a game versus NC State. But what he did down in Tallahassee and what he did up at Wake, I mean, he just you know, was the best guy out there. You know, hard to tackle, playing with a lot of confidence. And I think that's coming from just having to be the guy and taking on a bigger burden. He's really thrived with that role, and you know, he's a. I'm sure Coach Johnson over there is not excited about having to tackle that number 8. He's a tough, you know, package to deal with, because he's a factor in the passing game. He can make you miss. He's physical. He's quicker than you think, and then he can run. So he's a good football player, and we're lucky to have a guy that could step in and you know, not quite as explosive as Andre, but nonetheless a really good package. Jamie's a typical NFL kind of back. You know, he'll play a long time on Sunday if his body will hold up, because he's physical, and that's what it takes.
Dabo, with Andre, if he was able to play, do you have any sense of, you know, how much of a load he'd be able to carry?
No, we would just kind of manage it. You know, we really haven't rested Jamie a whole lot. It'd be nice to be able to send Andre in there and, you know, see how he does, and if he responds well, then go from there. But until you actually got out there, because he'd have to get a shot on game day, you know, and so he'd be feeling no pain, and would probably feel pretty good. But that'd be something that we'll have to continue to gauge through the week, and then see how he does in pregame, and then how, you know, what kind of game Jamie's having and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully, if we had him, it'd be great to be able to, you know, bring him back and mix him in, you know, some key situations.
Do you remember what your first conversation with Spurrier was, whenever that was? What the subject of it was?
My first conversation with Coach Spurrier? No. I can't remember my first conversation. Since I've been here?
You said your relationship goes way back.
Oh, well, I've just known him for years. Where it's been out on the recruiting trail, and, you know, his son and I are about the same age, and we've recruited against each other for years, and know Junior well. So some of those.
He's got twice as many kids.
Yeah, he sure does. We're gonna keep it that way too. He does. Junior's a good guy. He's a good guy. I've got to know him well, but yeah, I think he's got got some more on the way.